This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast to wrap up your week. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante, and this will last at least double the length of MLB and the MLBPA's latest meeting. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. Who thought the 1 o'clock meeting would be over before the podcast started? Me, you, probably all of us. It is. It's done. More importantly, on the Yankee side of things, because they still have a roster to worry about. You heard the Derek Jeter chants in the intro, the last captain of the Yankees. Is Aaron Judge the next captain of the Yankees, or is his Yankee career going to be done too soon? He went on the R2C2 podcast this week, released on Thursday, and said some very eye-opening things about the way the Yankees are handling this negotiation and what the future might hold for him, whether he's the captain or whether he is gone. We will dive into those. Another outfielder who's having a little bit of trouble coming to dollar terms with his current team, Juan Soto. Is there an opening here for the Yankees after word leaked that he turned down a deal just before the lockout? Or Yankee fans doing Yankee fan thing and talking about the best player in baseball? Well, either way, we're going to do it. And a BP session that included 2 current Yankees infielders and 1 very interesting non-current Yankee. We're going to break it all down. I honestly can't remember the last time we have had more to talk about, but that's no reason not to check out the back catalog on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Drop us those 5-star reviews along with a mailbag question and review. We will be happy to answer it. Had a reviewer this week call me out for saying that we always ask for 5-star reviews. That's how podcasts work. So congrats on finding the one podcast that asks for 5-star reviews, but we would really appreciate them either way, whether you're going to be snarky about it or normal. And again, find us on YouTube on Mondays and Thursdays, 2 o'clock Eastern time, streaming live for you, and on Twitter as well. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the podcast. Aaron Judge, future Yankee, or Aaron Judge, future Mariner?
Ooh, I don't know. Future Blue Jay. Why not? Kill us.
Yeah, San
Kill us
Francisco
while you're
Giant.
there.
Where's he going to go?
The Giants, yeah, Giants would be cool. Hey, Dodgers, maybe. Dodgers have a ton of people coming off the books after next season, so you really don't know. But this was particularly eye-opening for me because you know who Aaron Judge is. I think he's been here long enough for you to at least understand his personality, his characteristics, what's par for the course for him. And when Aaron Judge is faced with tough questions in front of the media, he answers them, but he doesn't particularly provide the most insightful or detailed or revealing answers or commentary to that question. He usually says what he has to, very captain-like. You know, we've compared him to Derek Jeter in terms of how he handles the media and how he handles his life off of the field. And I think that's a fair and admirable comparison. But now you have Aaron Judge in month 3 of the lockout appearing on a very well-known podcast with CC Sabathia and Brian Rucco, the R2C2 podcast. And in case you haven't been following Yankees content as religiously as some other fans have, you would know that any Yankees content on that podcast blows up. Blows up. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter who it's about. It makes its rounds on Yankees Twitter, and it creates all the hoopla that you can imagine. So I think Aaron Judge's motive here was to play a role in getting more of the fans on board with his situation, because it's one thing to get eliminated in embarrassing fashion by the Boston Red Sox and then have a moment of like reminiscing on the good times because your season just came crashing down and being like, yeah, man, I'd love to remain a Yankee for life heading into a contract year. It'd be certainly great. It's another thing to talk about those contracts or talk about that contract situation at length, and then allude to a potential future without the Yankees, and then even be willing to answer at length about the captainship or whatever the correct terminology would be. But he also had a lengthy response there. So when you have fans that are down bad right now because the lockout is continuing to take a toll, and I've determined I think the MLB owners should probably reimburse all the content creators that they're affecting throughout this entire thing. So maybe like a $5,000 bonus check. It's certainly possible. There's not that many of us. It'll probably be like $5 million or something when all is said and done. I think it's reasonable. But Judge making sure to bring up a subject as touchy as this one, because Yankee fans are worried about that. They're worried about 2022, and they're also worried about the future. So with all the uncertainty with the lockout, with the Yankees roster heading into what feels like a boomer or a do or die season because of all the questions they have, he hit right where he needed to hit. And this is going to be a talking point for until opening day. And everyone's going to be saying, okay, Yankees, if you don't have 4 offers in hand for Aaron Judge when the lockout ends, what are you doing? Why do you even exist as an organization? So good on Aaron Judge. I'm glad he opened up. I'm glad he spoke about this. It's a pertinent topic. It's worthwhile for all of us to hear. And it's a good bit of information while we're deprived of so much over these last 3 months.
The pull quote that everyone's going to take from this, and rightfully so, was Judge talking about the extension, saying if we get an extension done before the season starts, that would be great. If it doesn't happen, and this is my last year, I had a lot of great memories. Now, I don't know if it was likely that an extension would get done before the season started, even before the lockout began, and knocked conservatively 3 months off that estimate. December gone, January gone. It's February 17th. I don't think we can count on February anymore. Like, even if we had those months, I don't even know if it was realistic to say, we're going to get something done before the season begins. They hadn't even discussed things in detail prior to the season ending, as far as we know. I mean, Judge, the way he kept saying it was, I'd love to be a Yankee forever and ever, amen, but I don't have any clarity on that or whatnot. This is definitely the first time we've seen him look in the mirror and reflect on the reality that he might not be on this team beyond the end of this year. And of course, he's speaking about embracing the captaincy too. And he's willing, whether it happens, if it happens, whatever happens, if it does or doesn't, he seems to be, willing to accept different fates there, open to whether or not that's something the team wants to do, whether it's an honor they want to bestow upon them. But even if it's not an admission that he's going to leave the team, even if he's not outright saying, if we don't have a deal done by opening day, I will leave the New York Yankees next season, that's not what he's saying. He's not making a declarative, but even having the idea floated, I mean, this is the first time we've heard him say, if it doesn't work out, I had great memories here, which is never what you want to hear from a top 10 MLB player on a team that makes money everywhere at every turn. Whether the Yankees had a tough pandemic or not, whether they had the worst 2020 of anyone, which Hal Steinbrenner keeps telling us, we got hit harder than anyone else because, of course, the Yankees are revenue drivers. They make more money than most teams. So theoretically, they probably also lost money, but they had a better nest egg to rely on and whatever. I'm done talking about whether the Yankees really, if they just lost the most money during the pandemic or if they actually got affected more than other rosters. I tend to think that, it's a drop in the bucket in their typical finances. But yeah,
they just didn't gain what they were used to gaining, and that was it.
They got hit. I'm not going to be like, your pandemic was awesome, but then again, you're not the Pittsburgh Pirates. But to hear about that and to hear about, when you're watching the Mookie Betts trade happen in Boston, everybody screams about it. We're all outraged all the time now. Rightfully so. There was a good reason to scream about that trade. You're trading a top 5 player in baseball before his contract year. You're one of the 3 richest teams in baseball. You are the Yankees Junior. You're not a small market team. You're trading Mookie Betts. Everyone yells about it. And then, of course, the 2020 Red Sox tank, get the 4th overall pick. The 2021 Red Sox make very few changes to the roster, add a couple of glue guys, and all of a sudden, 92 wins, win the wild card game, get the stroke of luck. The Yankees don't, beat the Rays, and they're in the ALCS. They're 2 wins away from the World Series. So if you think the Yankees aren't watching that, you're wrong. Clearly, that's factored into their decision about whether or not to extend big-bodied Aaron Judge, who Mookie Betts is tiny. People with his frame don't typically hold up that well over the course of 2-decade careers in Major League Baseball. They lose their pop. When they lose their speed, their profile starts to go a little bit. We've never had a player like 6'7" Aaron Judge before. So I do understand the Yankees' reticence to say, and the opposite end of the spectrum, his profile is the opposite of Betts, is how much longer can this possibly last? We already have Giancarlo Stanton on the books, who can't play the outfield full-time, similar body. When does Judge become a first baseman? When does he become a DH? All of these worries are valid if you're going to be ruthlessly efficient in creating a roster. But then again, you are the New York Yankees. The Boston Red Sox are the Boston Red Sox. If you extend Aaron Judge and make a mistake, you can absorb it. The question is whether you intend to absorb it and act like the New York Yankees, or whether you are too worried about making a mistake that you're completely unwilling to dip your foot in that pool, in which case, Judge said it himself, he's gone.
Yeah. Perfectly said. I mean, it's going to be a tough situation. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of the discourse taking up our time between if he's not signed before. That's the other thing with the Yankees. The Yankees love avoiding distraction. They love avoiding controversy. And I don't know why you would invite having your star player head into a contract year without security when he's coming off season in which he proved to you. Look, I know it's complicated. Judge has been healthy for now 2 full seasons. I know some might not feel that that's enough. But when he's healthy, he's a top 10 player in baseball. You could make the argument for top 5. And there's no reason that a team with as much resources and as much spending power that the Yankees have shouldn't have this guy under contract after the amount of money that they overspent for guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Garrett Cole. I'm not saying they're not deserving of the money. I'm saying they had no problem giving that type, those gigantic contracts or inheriting those gigantic contracts for players who are not as good as Aaron Judge, I think is fair to say. Judge is consistent on both sides of the ball. Team war leader last year. I think that's indicative of what he is going to do. So let's end the lockout so we can actually do something of note with our best players. And speaking of the lockout, everyone got, once again, everyone fucking excited. Oh my God, MLB and the players are meeting this week. This is great. What's going to come out of this? What do you think is going to come out of this? Because it's nothing. It's always been nothing. Can we get the energy of just expecting nothing? Everybody's excited. Oh my God, they're meeting this week. This is great.
It's an event when they're meeting. It's a negotiation. You have to be meeting every day. We shouldn't be throwing parties for the 1 o'clock meeting. It should be a meeting every single day.
I don't understand. I mean, I do understand because you want this to get resolved as soon as possible. You want spring training. The pitchers and catchers were supposed to report on Tuesday, I think it was. They're not there. And you're now, we've taken for granted the little bullshit snippets of content that we get from, players taking nonsense batting practice or pitchers warming up in the outfield. But guess what? We miss it. It sucks. So I understand getting excited, but there is no reason to have any positivity when it comes to these two sides. MLB and the players met again today. If we were to refresh your memory a little bit, players were given an offer on Saturday, swiftly declined, have not come up with a counter proposal. They met today for 15 minutes. So I'm gonna yell now about the players because I blame the owners first and foremost. They started this lockout. They made this worse than it should be, and they are the ones profiting hand over fist, regardless of really what's happening. Players don't exist. Owners don't have a team. They don't have a luxury suite to sit in and a giant lobster steak buffet to eat for 5 hours during the game. So this is what pisses me off about what the players are doing, because I talked about last time about how this needs to be more fluid. The players need to come back and put pressure on the owners. That's how this is going to get done. The owners honestly don't really care if they're going to miss games. And the players should care because the players are losing salary. All the owners are doing is they're just not gaining the profits that they would otherwise gain. Kind of like the argument that we talk about the pandemic all the time. It's like you didn't go negative 500 million into the hole. You just didn't make the 500 million that you were expecting to make. So great. Just live a year of modesty, I guess, instead of making hundreds of millions of dollars. Players should be concerned. Players need to put pressure on the owners where they deem fit. The issues that are most important to them and hold the most weight. Because this is a negotiation, guys. Neither side is going to come out with a majority or all of the victories on their side. The players need to determine what is most valuable to them. And so I see this today, and this just drives me up a wall. So we talked about the pre-arbitration bonus pool that the players were hoping to get. They pitched $100 million, right? The owners countered with what, 10 million, which is a ridiculous
15,
counter.
I believe. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, 15. So then the players don't counter with a number. They just keep saying, we want 100 million. Okay, great. So that's not going to work. If the owners think it should be that little and you think it should be that high, I'm not saying it needs to be exactly in the middle, but it can't be the same talking point that you brought to the table last time. So today, the MLBPA requested an increase from that $100 million to $115 million in exchange for arbitration eligibility class to include 80% of the players with 2 years of service time instead of 100. So there's no difference. If you're subtracting 20% of the people and adding 15% more of money on top of it, there's no loss. There's no give and take there. They're just chopping from one area and replenishing from another. I understand what they want to do. I totally support it. I think there should be some sort of pre-arbitration bonus pool that rewards the guys who are being underpaid and who get stuck in arbitration. Arbitration's a long time, and sometimes you don't get it your way, especially in the beginning when the teams fight and you have to go to the panel and somebody has to rule on it. It's complicated and it sucks. I'm fully there for bonuses and other advantages that younger players can explore, but this is not negotiating. This is just, we want this, and great. If they want this $115 million, then there needs to be something else that they're seemingly giving the owners, because as much as I would love to take everything from the owners and give it to the players and the fans or literally whoever else, the people on the street who don't have jobs or a house, like let's give it to everybody. There is no way you're going to go into a negotiation and expect the owners to be like, oh, dude, last CBA, we kind of railroaded you. So you know what? Here's all the talking points that we think we were unfair with, and we're going to swing it in your direction now. So ball's in your court, guys. What do you want to do? It just doesn't work like that. And it seems like the MLBPA is trying to draw such a fine line and a hard bargain with what they want. And it's not going to work because they are the ones who are going to lose more by not playing games. The owners already said they're fine with not playing games. So there's got to be some give and take here. And if the meeting lasted 15 minutes and you wouldn't either come down from this aspect of the proposal or provide something else that gives the owners some sort of incentive to accept this, then this is the worst negotiation in history.
Nobody's going to come out with a massive win here. Nobody's going to end up looking at the players and the owners. And you know what the owners aren't going to let the players do? Come out with a huge victory so that when the season resumes, they can say MLBPA save season gets 85% of what they want. Owners grovel in dirt. Like that's unlikely to happen as much as you and I want to dream it up. And a 15-minute meeting is a slap in the face. An increase in a pool that the owners aren't even close to is a slap in the face. It's not you want to talk about MLBPA and MLB negotiating in bad faith. MLB is certainly negotiating in bad faith. It's also bad faith to raise something Major League Baseball is coming nowhere close to say, we want 100, you're giving us 10, we want 100, you're giving us 15, fine, we want 115. Unless there's something I'm missing, that doesn't feel like good faith. And this is just another reason to be upset by the fact that these meetings are a national holiday. There were like 40 days at the start of the lockout where Major League Baseball did not reach out to the players. They did nothing. They kicked the can down the road so that they could start this animosity and this unserious negotiation way too late so that people could start blaming both sides and say, well, the players need to immediately accept what the owners are putting forth. The owners locked out the players. The two sides were nowhere close at the start. Everybody assured us it would not be this high-pressure scenario, that the sides would come to an agreement, that spring training might be slightly delayed, but we wouldn't miss any games. And then the owners decided not to talk to anybody for 40 days. So lion's share of the blame falls on the owners for locking out the players, shut the conversation down before it started. But you're right. We are in nut-cutting time. We aren't at I don't want players making massive concessions. And you are at the point where you're seeing fans saying, like, just take the B's deal already. Let's get down there. That's not how it works either. Nobody should be the owners are never going to accept this very player slanted deal. The players should never accept this obscenely owner slanted deal that makes almost no concessions. And I hate when I see it framed in tweets like the owners are putting forth this. Let's see how the players bend in response. The owners aren't bending at all. Nobody's bending. So it's not like anybody's giving and taking. obviously the owners are the ones who locked out the players. The owners are the ones who shut the conversation down to start. The players should not be bending over backwards to take the owner's garbage deal, but no one's getting any closer. And the players move further away on Thursday, which is an absurd thing to do at this juncture when we are 2 days into Major League Spring Training.
Yeah, and I understand this is difficult, guys. The owners have put the onus on the players. They have made this they started this negotiation in terribly shitty faith, and they've continued to do so in that manner with the talks that are few and far between, with the counter offers or the offers that the players are rightfully balking at. But you got to play the game. The players need to play the game. There needs to be faster negotiations here. They need to look, you want to talk about all these people who are, all the people who have said something about the players at this point, who are like, I don't know what's going on. Why is this happening? Why isn't there more of an urgency with the players union? If the players union just had the lawyers, spent an all-nighter, and went through the entire proposal, picked out what they think the owners might be willing to bend on, and offered a proposal within 48 hours and demanded to meet, they could spin the whole media narrative fully in their favor. I understand it already pretty much is in their favor, but if you want to talk about putting pressure and assessing blame, you can't let this information leak about the arbitration pool, because then it makes the players look like they're not really doing anything. And why did the meeting end after 15 minutes? We only have that nugget of information to go off of. I'm not saying that we know everything, and I'm not saying the players are to blame, but there needs to be, I don't know how there's no urgency on the player side to put pressure and to spin the narrative in against the owner's favor. And that should be the goal here. And I don't know why it's not happening. And it makes me think that there's just apathy here. And it makes me just feel more and more like the MLBPA doesn't really care, because they know that all of their top guys either got deals or have deals. You look at free agency right now, there's a couple of guys out there who are stars. They're going to get paid. But for the most part, the problem in every sport is like the top 10% of athletes get most of the money, and then everybody else can be like cut tomorrow for $50,000, and then that's the end of their career. So we also have to keep in mind that this is a battle of the upper echelon classes here. And I don't want to think that, but based on what's happening with these negotiations, it just drives me to think that that's more of the reality than not. And I don't want to be negative anymore. I want to be happy.
Welcome to the Bernie Sanders podcast, the top 5% of the top 1% of baseball players. It sucks, guys. And we're gonna wrap it up. We're not gonna talk about this much longer. But the Windy City Pod asks when our best guess is for the start of the season. I'll throw numbers out there. I mean, right now it's very depressing. Thomas, you say May 1st. May 1st. I say June 1st. I'm just not feeling it. I think yours is I think it's not before May 1st. I think
mine's now almost like a really best case scenario. It feels like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
May 1st seems like a really damn good scenario.
Hassan saying they have like 11 days to stop, the season from being delayed at all. And as somebody who's been counting down a lot of days, getting married in the fall, I have a lot of stuff to get done before the wedding. I'm doing a big old show in New York City on March 29th. If anybody's here. If you like comedy and The Sopranos, let's put this on the podcast. Who cares? But I got a lot of deadlines, and I started the year with a lot of deadlines, so I know how quickly 11 days can go away. You're going to blink, and 11 days are going to be gone, and we're moving backwards here, so there's just no way that May 1st is a reasonable estimate, I guess. I mean, how crazy would you have to be to cancel more than a month of games? But then again, moving backwards, 115% pool. Maybe it's $130 million next month. I can't believe we're really doing this. Let's move on to a little pleasant news. Depending on how you feel about a stopgap stuff, guess it's not that pleasant. Didi Gregorius is set to make $15 million almost this year, $14.5 million with the Philadelphia Phillies in the final year of his contract. He was terrible last season. Offensive metrics way down, hard hit velocity, exit velo, all that good stuff. Percentage, walk percentage, came terrible. Very little power, did not hit the ball with authority, defense bad. All of that is the preface of this conversation. We've talked in the past about how he's not the fit for 2022 at shortstop. But I will say, I said this morning in an article I wrote, look, it's not the most intellectual argument ever put forth. I don't feel great about saying it out loud. But if the Yankees are going to get a stopgap shortstop this year, and they're down to Nick Ahmed, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Didi, and they can get the Phillies to eat some money, I'm not in favor. I'm not pumping my fist. I would rather have, I think, honestly, either of those two other people. But if they do end up getting Didi at a discount, they get the Phillies to pay, $8 million. They pay 6.5 or something for 1 year. It would be an extremely interesting chemistry experiment because nothing has looked the same since he left. There were rumors he was dissatisfied in 2019. People talked about how he was uncomfortable and brusque with the media and how it would be a blessing in disguise to get rid of him. Well, the Yankees got worse. So did he. He got worse as a player. Decent 2020, very bad 2021. There were no winners to the divorce. The Yankees had Gleyber Torres out there. You want to talk about bad fielding? That didn't help. So it's not like Didi's profile was replaced by somebody who was an instant impact glove at short. They're still looking to fill that hole 2 years later. It's not like it went particularly well for either side. But it would be a hell of a chemistry experiment to say 2017 to 2019 feel different than 2020 and 2021. What was the main difference? We added Garrett Cole. Stanton got healthier and better. Judge got healthier and better. Why did we get worse? Chemistry and depth and bringing Didi Gregorius back. All of this to say, Didi put out a hype video on Wednesday night showing that he was taking BP with Gleyber Torres and Gio Urshela, making a real point to make a polished hype video like a high school senior looking to get recruited by the Duke Blue Devils, showing that he had his red bat. He was ripping into the cage. Gio posted it too. He posted a video of Didi taking BP in sandals. It appeared to just be Torres, Gio, and Didi, the three of them hanging out together. A couple weeks ago, Didi posted a Yankees throwback too. He was like, I don't know what the caption was. It was like, everybody's been asking for this or whatever. And I guess people have. And the comment section was just like, Gleyber, Sessa, Ronald Torres, all the classic 2017, 2018 Yankees chilling, inserting themselves in the conversation, having a great time, making memories. And then the three guys got together this week to take a BP session. Something or nothing. It's obviously not a done deal, and it's going to take a lot of soul searching and budget crunching for the Yankees to get Didi back and decide they'd rather overwhelm Trevor Story. Hopefully, if they do bring him back, it says something about how much they're actually willing to spend. Because if they're willing to eat money and use a guy who was very much below average in 2021 to fill the gap, this is what we said last year about picking up Zach Britton's option. Like, if they're willing to spend $17 million on him, maybe they'll spend money elsewhere. And then they just absolutely did not do that. So maybe it's an indicator, maybe it's not. It's certainly going to take cash to get Didi here. He's worse than many available options, but I would say it's 60% something. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, look, if I would probably be higher, but the Yankees don't give a shit, man. They traded Luis Sessa, who was boys with a lot of people on this team. They traded Tyler Wade, who's like Aaron Judge's best friend. He was in the wedding party, wasn't he? When the pictures we saw from, yeah. So they don't give a shit. They don't care about chemistry. They trade guys, they get rid of guys, they let guys walk, regardless of if they feel they're intrinsic to the the ethos or the fabric of the team. It doesn't really make a difference to them. But hey, once again, I'll reiterate this point. The Yankees don't need the best player at every position in order to be successful. They just need serviceable players at a few other spots to not have detrimental production offsetting what we saw last year. So yeah, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton finally healthy for a full season. Holy shit. It should have been a lot more exciting than it was, but Gleyber Torres was giving you negative value. The corner outfield spots were giving you or at least left field was giving you negative value for half the year. We had problems at first base because DJ LeMahieu wasn't fully himself when he was filling in there. Luke Voit was injured, and there were no solutions. And obviously, you have the argument with Gary Sanchez. I will not bring it up any further because people will try to kill me, but once again, not great play from behind the plate. It's not really a secret at this point. If you continue to blindly defend it, then I don't know who to forward you to, but you do need help.
I think it's a secret. I think it's a secret he was bad.
Bringing in a guy like Didi doesn't do. Look, if we were at all discussing trading for Nick Ahmed this offseason, I don't understand why they would pay assets for that plus his $8 million salary next year and not trade something minimal and inherit maybe they get the Phillies to eat $3 million, take Didi for $11 million for 1 year. I don't think that's insane. Didi also benefits from being in a better lineup. He was not entirely lights out as a Yankee, guys. He was good. 270 average, 102 OPS plus, 759 OPS. I understand that he had a lot of marquee Yankee moments. I will say that too. He was a clutch hitter and he was a sure glove, but he wasn't the best and he wasn't close to being the best. And that just goes to show that you don't need every player at every position as the highest paid guy willing to do the job. Didi filled in very nicely. He did a totally okay job based on what we're talking about. Advanced metrics determine a 102 OPS plus is literally average. It's 2% over the average of the rest of the pack. So there was another factor there, and it was Didi's personality. It was the relationships he forged with the other players. It was probably the manner in which he played mentor to a guy like Gleyber Torres, who he was much older than and shared the middle infield with, and also shared the left side of the infield with Gio Urshela for a short time. So if the Yankees gave a shit about team chemistry, I would say, yeah, they might do this, but they don't. So I don't see any reason why they would. And it does go to show you that this takes a toll on a roster, because what reason do Gleyber Torres and Gio Urshela have to work out with Didi Gregorius in the offseason? They have no reason. There is absolutely no reason to do it. Look at Aaron Judge. Told R2C2 today that he's working out with Mike Ford in Florida. Maybe another guy that the Yankees could have kept or emphasized in a different fashion. I know he didn't have the greatest tenure either, but talk to some of these guys before you're offloading them in a trade or just letting them walk and not really fostering the conversation about a return or what might work for both sides. So I think it's a whole lot of nothing, man, unfortunately. I would like to see it, though, because I like Didi a lot, and I liked what he brought to the table. There are certain things that you need people to bring to the table. Didi has that energy. Luke Voigt's another guy who has that energy, but you need more people like that to offset all the other, kind of stonewall personalities or, just people who are not really that animated or outspoken. And the Yankees seem to have, Corey Kluber coming to town was like, great, now we fully have a roster of robots. And Didi was fun, dude. The post-game tweets, I love that shit. I ate that up every time. And he clearly had an effect on a lot of guys. And I think that and look, you want to complain about his, I guess, 2020 and 2021. His 2020 was actually good, but then you talk about having a full season after a shortened season. It really wasn't the easiest thing to do. And he also dealt with some injury issues last year. So you could get him at a discount at this point based on that lack of production. And it might not even speak to what he's capable of come 2022. I don't think they're going to do it, though. I really don't.
No, we'll see. I mean, let's talk about Luke Voigt. Let's get another one of those chemistry guys out of here. Anybody who fires up the team at all, let's hightail him out of here, put him on a truck. Seems like he's done. Seems like a lot of those guys are done. Mike Ford, again, not an epic Yankee, not a guy who deserved a starting spot necessarily, but somebody who we saw regress. Shocker. We'll have to see that. He's the only Yankee who's ever regressed. He meant something to Aaron Judge, and you can't just make a team out of just friends. That's not how roster building works, but it's not a consideration for the Yankees at all. Yeah. And you're cutting to DJ LeMahieu in the postgame, robotic. You're cutting to Judge, polished, robotic. You're cutting to Kluber, who definition robot, textbook robot. Yeah, not great. I mean, Garrett Cole, is anybody motivated by what Garrett Cole has to say after a big game? Now, they always show the clip of Garrett Cole celebrating after the Stanton home run at Fenway, where he's like doing dinosaur arms, and he's like,
that was
I
fun.
don't even know what you'd call that. It's very fun, but he brings that energy in a post-game press conference. I don't really know where that goes when the ninth inning ends into the current place. Just another thing to think about. Obviously, we're going to have a hole at shortstop for the next month and a half, 2 months. So keep parsing these BP sessions. I do want to talk on a more upbeat note about free agency in the future. 25 Yankees are going to have a decision to make. Are they going to be the Yankees at that point? Are they still going to be the team that people get annoyed when they go out and talk about superstars under contract somewhere else? because people hate that. But if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be the Yankees. So what do you want? Do you want the Yankees to be annoying and start trying to poach everybody else's players so you can hate us? Or do you want the Yankees to stop doing that and fade back into obscurity so you start feeling weird about the fact that you hate us? Like, if we stop doing that and we're just an 85-win team and we don't sign anybody, we're going to start feeling like the Lakers. It's going to feel weird. And the modern Patriots, like, who hates Mac Jones? I don't know, it's very weird. Not a lot of people hate Mac Jones. So do you all haters, do you want Yankee fans to just sit and be nervous and never sign upper tier free agents and win between 82 and 87 games every year? I don't think you actually do. You think you do, but you don't. But trust me, on the other side of things, it gets quite boring. If you're still hating the Patriots with the same veracity that you were 2 years ago, you're a weirdo. You're a Buffalo fan or you're a weirdo. And you probably don't want the Yankees to become that. All this to say, are the Yankees going to be a behemoth 3 years from now? Are the Mets going to be what the Yankees should have been and should still be? Because Juan Soto is probably going to be a free agent. He turned down a 13-year, $350 million extension with the Washington Nationals. We learned that this week. So the Dodgers are going to be clearing budget. The Mets are going to be clearing budget. If for a head-to-head battle that makes a lot more sense than a Trevor Bauer battle, I'd rather have Juan Soto, controversial opinion, I'd rather go head-to-head in that arena in free agency. Are the Yankees going to be in the fray? Because 13 years, $350 million. Look, it's not a lot of money. It's a little bit more money than what Tatis Jr. got. There's no, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, $350 million is chump change. But then again, Carlos Correa, bad back, not the kind of player Juan Soto is. He's going for 10 years, $350 million in free agency. Lindor got 10 years, $340 million. Juan Soto, if those guys are getting $35 million AAV, he can hope for 40. He can shoot for 45. Max Scherzer at the end of his rope is getting $43 million next year. It's like 43.6. I mean, that's Max Scherzer, one of the game's 3 best pitchers, but also nearly a 40-year-old man. So 26-year-old Juan Soto hitting free agency. You don't think some team can carve out, obviously, the short-term versus long-term of it? And not to bring Bauer back, obviously, he invented the short-term contracts.
Yes.
Kudos for putting that Max Scherzer deal together. But there's a difference, obviously, between overloading Max Scherzer's Bank of America account with 2 years worth of millions and getting it out their future finances to pay Juan Soto $50 million annually for 12 years or 13 years. Free agent deal is probably going to be more like 10 rather than 13 from the extension. But he will be 26 goddamn years old. I mean, he's going to be making between $450 and $500 million. He's probably going to be landing in a new CBA that is not a player win, pump your fist, but certainly more of a victory for the players than the current one on the books. Yeah. He's going to be making a lot of money. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about the Yankees paying this money because the only teams in that stratosphere for someone who's 23 and is the next Ted Williams and is already better than Ted Williams at his age for power and patience, it's going to be the Mets. It's going to be the Dodgers. Probably going to be the Red Sox. The Yankees should probably be involved there. And if they're not, they're going to feel really dumb for ignoring the Juan Soto case.
Yeah, I mean, why would we not talk about this? If anybody gave us shit for talking about this, I don't even know. I'd have to meet you in a parking lot somewhere. But 12 years and $480 million is a $40 million AAV. Just saying that it's 40 even per year. I don't think that's going to be unreasonable. What did Trout sign? A 430 or something?
That's worth Googling. Let me Google while you talk.
Google it. But yeah, I mean, Soto had every right to reject that but man, if I'm 23 and someone offers me 350, I'm probably just taking it. But he's got bigger goals in mind. What?
I said I get that too. I would definitely not begrudge that.
He's totally going to be able to make more. He's hitting free agency or what he's hit. Nationals have got this down pat, dude. They got him and Bryce to hit free agency at like 26. And they didn't take advantage of Bryce's situation. I would have signed Bryce to that contract in a second, but it had worked out for them. They won a World Series. Nonetheless, whenever there is this could be warfare on either side. The Nats could be leaking this to be like, hey, poll Red Sox, hey, we offered what we could, and we offered him $350 million at 23 years old, and he said no. Yeah. So, like, what else do you want us to do? Offer more money. The Red Sox said, we offered him $275 million. We thought that was fair. Yeah, and then the Dodgers offered him $90 more million. So clearly you didn't offer enough.
Also fair. The more money is fair.
Yeah. Or it could be Scott Boras, who's Juan Soto's agent, leaking this and saying, they offered us $350 million 3 years before his free agency, just expecting that he's not going to win, maybe 1 or 2 MVPs over that span to up his price. Yeah, get out of here. So you always got to take these things with a grain of salt. I think 1, Juan Soto was right to reject it. 2, I think the Nationals were right to even attempt this. I think it's a fair offer. It's totally fair. He's 23 years old. Again, this would be the largest contract, for the second largest contract ever. And he's had very minimal MLB experience, despite how impactful he's been. But yeah, when you look at the books for all these other big market teams, the Dodgers at this point will only have, in 2025, he becomes a free agent after 2024. The Dodgers have only Mookie Betts and Chris Taylor under contract, and then a few other arbitration guys. Walker Buehler's gone. The entire core, as you know it, gone. No one's going to be there. So they will have plenty of space left over. Depending on what they do with Trey Turner, could get complicated. Yankees have a little bit of a different situation, assuming they sign Judge to an extension. Hey, tying in the storylines, I guess. They're going to have Judge, who's probably going to be making upper 20s, $30 million a year. They're going to have Stanton. They're going to have Cole. They're going to have fucking DJ LeMahieu. And they're going to have Aaron Hicks still under contract at this time. So it's a little bit more of a complicated situation. I don't know exactly how you would navigate these waters. Again, Juan Soto plays right field. Aaron Judge plays right field. So a little bit of an issue there. But once again, you sign good players, you figure out the alignment later. I don't think there'd be an issue with Juan Soto moving around the outfield. And you're talking about the biggest baseball brand. Why would they not sign, like you said, this generation's Ted Williams? I think it's totally within reason. Yankees could maybe theoretically get rid of one of these players by 2025 or 2026. At that point, they'll only have 1, 2, or 3 years left. So someone would be happy to eat salary or take a top prospect in return. I don't know, but it's totally in the wheelhouse. It's always going to be a player of this caliber hitting free agency is going to be in almost any team's wheelhouse who's willing to spend this amount of money or has the capacity to spend this amount of money. It's not dumb to talk about. It is premature because we got to wait 3 years. But how dumb was that tweet we saw yesterday of someone? If I'm the Yankees, I propose 15 players for Juan Soto and see what they say. They'll probably fucking say yes, dude. Like, why would you do that though? We'll just wait.
I don't think they're going to say yes.
You don't think they would say yes?
No, it was like
your new farm system.
It was like Anthony Volpe, yeah.
Volpe, Peraza, Wells,
Dominguez, Heel,
Medina.
I might say yes. I mean, there's never been a trade like that in the history of time. Nobody's ever given up their entire future for, again, 3 years of Juan Soto. So not even like Juan Soto.
That is true.
There's no extension.
Maybe they wouldn't do that.
I don't know. That it's extremely weird. I don't know who would. I don't know who would do that. I also don't know who. It was Doug Rush, and if I may be so uncouth, who the fuck is that? Why is he everywhere? He's all over the place. Verified, he's doing the weird disrespect tweets about teams that have sucked for 5 years. Like the way that weird. God, I saw the weirdest today doing everybody was saying Bill Belichick was going to tank and win no games and draft Trevor Lawrence, but then they came out that the Dolphins were doing that. So keep that same energy. And it's like, where is your brain? What are you talking about? You're inventing news stories to get mad at? But at least that's a Patriots fan. And that's someone with cocky history. Doug Rush is doing it for the Giants. And so he's doing he's like, wait, I thought the Giants were a dysfunctional franchise, but now I'm learning things about other teams. Make it make sense. And it's like, the Giants are horrible. They are dysfunctional. What are you talking about, Doug? Keep that same energy for. I mean, come on, buddy. You're tweeting from the ground. You're tweeting 12 player for 1 player deals with the Washington Nationals just to use that check mark. So if Doug's listening, Doug, tell me who you are. Just tell me what outlet you write for and where you came from, where you're
Giants
going,
Wire.
What the overall plan is. That's a real website. So what's going on here? Mike Trout's contract, by the way, was $426.5 million. So if I'm Juan Soto and I'm 23, I'm not taking a penny less than that.
And his
Why don't we
trade,
just have
Doug
Mike
Rush's
Trout?
trade. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go.
No, what you were saying.
I was just going to
We're
say.
on Trout.
I was just saying with Trout, why don't we just have the Mike Trout and Bryce Harper contracts should both be in Philadelphia? Why are they both not in Philadelphia? Or Mike Trout should be in Philly on a similar contract, and Bryce Harper should be playing for the New York Yankees. That's it. It would make everybody's lives a lot easier.
I think that's
anywhere but the Angels.
Get the Angels out of here. Doug Rush, verified Doug Rush, his proposal for Juan Soto. Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, Luis Heel, Clark Schmidt, Aaron Hicks, Oswald Peraza for Soto and Patrick Corbin.
I like that Aaron Hicks is involved.
Well, you got to get so like you're taking on Corbin's contract, so the Nats have to take something. And Aaron Hicks, I think, is $10 million a year for the next 3 years or something. Like that's fine. That's not going to kill you.
I love the idea of the Nationals being like, your 9 top prospects for Juan Soto. Not into it. Do you have a 32-year-old center fielder who never plays? Can you add that?
It's a crazy thing to even consider. I don't rule out anything, so I'm not going to be, I'm not going to laugh at this and pretend like it'll never happen. But the Yankees would never do that. The Yankees would, with all the question marks the Yankees have over the next couple of years, they're not going to clean out the top 7 prospects in their system for a guy that they could just sign in 3 years and who doesn't really fill a need. He's just a really good player. So, like, where would they put it? I guess you could put him in left field. Could you do that?
Sure.
I guess. Put him in left field, put Gallen in center, keep Judging right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll do Oswald Peraza, Jason Dominguez, Anthony Volpe, Luis Heel, Clark Schmidt, Saquon Barkley, and Kemba Walker's expiring for Juan Soto. Let's get it done. Put it in the books. That is it for this Thursday edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. We told you, packed show. Actually packed show. This is we are over 3 times longer than the MLBPA MLB meeting from earlier in the day. So in case anybody, Manfred and Bruce Meyer from the Player Association side, in case you guys wanted to rehash your meeting 3+ times now while listening to this podcast, you can find the podcast if you want to do that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review one last time for our buddy, Kay Lombardo. Hope you're listening. And make sure to drop us a mailbag question as well. Did you make it all the way to the end? Then you win. You solve the puzzle. Then you got to drop us that 5-star, bro. You really do. See us live on YouTube on Tuesdays, or Mondays and Thursdays at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I said Tuesdays because it begins with a 2, so that's where that came from. Until next time, you can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. That's my name and also my handle. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. You can also find both of us on the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Stands for Fansided. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. You know the drill. Plenty of content there for you. There's more lockout stuff. There's more Aaron Judge stuff. There's other rumblings that we're not going to give away. You're going to have to find out for yourself. And most importantly, guys, enjoy the damn weekend. President's Day. We got an extra day here. Relax, recharge the batteries, do something else instead of listen to baseball news. Don't even listen to us. Don't go to Yanks Go Yard this weekend. Maybe one of the days, and then you use the other few to clear your mind because this is draining. It's not fun. There's no confidence in what these two sides are doing. And there's just so much more to life. There's so many other opportunities and things for you to do and things to explore. So I'd just suggest expanding your brain. That's all.
That's all. You heard it from Thomas Carannante. Do not visit our website this weekend. One weekend only. We'll see you next week with a podcast. Probably not going to be on the holiday Monday, but we'll let you know when it drops. And see you then, everybody. Goodbye.